This computer. Great. So how many people have experience writing HTML, CSS? I see a show of hands. It's good. What is HTML? Like what?
Hypertext markup language?
Like what does that mean? What is that?
It's the language that websites are built on.
Yeah, it's like it's a scripting language, kind of like. So everything you see on the page is HTML. All this is HTML. Now, what is CSS? Cascading.
Style sheets.
What does that do?
Basically, you get to customize your page however you want.
Yep. Customize your page however you want. As far I heard, make everything look pretty. Correct. Yeah. So it's all. What's that?
Unifies a theme across all pages.
Unifies the theme across all pages. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how does it unify?
Because you can create a single style sheet that every page pulls from, so it keeps like similar font sizes and colors, and kind of keeps the same feel throughout your website as you move from page to page.
Yeah. Okay. So Daniel says it can create a unified theme across web pages in a single CSS file, and we're going to get into that of how to essentially create a single theme or a single attribute, a single selector, and be able to use that across many different aspects of your web page. So today, what is HTML? Hypertext markup language instructs the web how to display a page, separates content from presentation. So you'll see different tags between like H1 and then like you have a section tag, you have a main tag that like separates your web pages based off of the specific type of content that is supposed to display in that area. So let's go down. So some of your challenges over the course of the weekend was, intro, front end intro, and then make a circle. I'm going to go in and we're going to do this challenge. Just going to go over it real quick. And we'll touch on a lot of the aspects between HTML and CSS, and then we'll go into the JavaScript portion of that. So I'm going to fork it. All right, I've already forked it. Complete, git clone. We don't want any of that. H&R block, tax season, always fun. Create a new challenge. CD, what was it, kilo challenges? Desktop, kilo challenges. ls, here on my challenges, git clone. ls, where's make a circle? CD and then make a circle. So I've got this index.html and the README. I'm going to go back to the curriculum, this challenge. Make a circle. You may have previously seen the property border radius. If not, check it out. We use this to make a circle. So we're going to go through, talk about all the different items in the index.html. So index.html is the generic file. That's like the baseline file. It's always, pretty much always called index.html. So I'm going to code or open this in the current window. So here's my index.html file. So let's look at the architecture of an index.html file. So in here we have the very top. It's denoted by this dot type HTML. This is essentially just a tag that says, hey, this file is an HTML file, even though it's also denoted by this .html file. This is your standard HTML architecture. And then in the encapsulating, we have an HTML tag that has some attributes, language equals English. Then we have a head and then body. So the HTML file consists of everything within the HTML tag, which are these. Everything goes within that, within the HTML tag. And then the HTML is kind of separated into just kind of like a person. There's a head and then there's a body. Everything within the head will contain all the information about the HTML file. So you can import different libraries, you can use different styling, different metadata goes in there, the title will go in here, I'll show you that. And then within the body, that's what actually will display on the page. And notice we have this other style tag. So anything within here, we can actually write inline cascading style sheets. And then within this main, this is where all our HTML will go. So this main tag, this is like the main content of the page. It doesn't always have to start with main. It could just be like, you can start with H1, but in this specific challenge, we have our styling, will be inline styling embedded within our HTML file. And then anything, all the main content will be in our main. So let's open this up into a web page. Index.html. Don't allow. Oh, shoot. I'll just do that. Index.html. Oh no. I get some errors. Open. The file, readable, it may be removed, move. How do I give Chrome access to this? Chrome. This is like an error. So I just updated my computer last night, or this weekend, so I'm getting how to give Chrome access to files. Oh, great. Go to run, type Chrome extension. Has anybody encountered this before?
No, that's just not work for me.
You could probably just use a different browser.
No, we want to use Chrome. I'm going to pause. So I open up the file in Chrome browser. It says US, this is the file path to this index.html file. And right now, there's actually nothing in my HTML file. It's just this main. And if I can open up the Chrome DevTools, Command Option I, this will allows us to inspect what's currently on the current web page under Elements. So there's all this other tabs we don't worry about right now. But under Elements, you essentially have what our HTML file looks like. And every time you hover over it, it'll highlight what shows up on our HTML. Right now, since it's really not showing anything, right, when I hover over main, it says over here, the main is what's being highlighted. So I want to create, I just want to create a box. How do I create a div, just create a box element? So create a div and box. Refreshed it. I've got, see how it says box. In my main, I have a div that anything in what's written in between the div, that actually shows up on the web page. This box. Let's open site settings. I'm gonna open up GitHub, Kilo Platoon curriculum. We'll get back to make a circle. Week 4. So release 1, make a square. Okay, so a box. I noticed that within the style tag, this is where we're gonna write our CSS style sheets. So So I'm just going to copy this here. And then I'm going to copy this as well. So we have a div box, but now we have pretty much says box, but we have this thing called class equals box. What is this? This class equals box. You know what that is? I heard it's an attribute. So, there's different ways we can associate styling, like CSS, with what's specifically on the page. So we can target it directly. So if I wanted to target this specific element, this div, with this specific styling that has like a height, we'll get into this later. We can call a class, and we could call this class anything we want. Anything we want. And in order to associate this box class to the specific styling, CSS is broken out down by, what is it? A selector. And then let's look at the nodes. It's like the selector, and then what is this called? Like the type or property, and then like the attribute, something like that. So it's like the selector name, followed by the property, which is like the height, width, border, and then like the specific value. So in this case, we have the selector is this box, and then the property, we have these multiple properties: height, width, border, line height, text align. You don't have to memorize any of that right now. You more than likely won't memorize all of them because there's plenty of them. And then followed by the values. 100 pixels, border, 2 pixels, solid, aqua. Don't necessarily know what that means. Line height, 100 pixels, text align, center. I'm just going to refresh this and see what this looks like. So we have our box right here that's set. We have a line height of 100 pixels. Like this is 100 pixels. The height of it is 100 pixels. The width is 100 pixels. And then we have border. I'm not quite sure what the border attribute means. I do, but let's see, border CSS. W3 Schools has a good resource. So CS property borders. So it looks like I have borders on all sides. I have a red bottom border. So the following values are allowed: dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove. Okay. Border width. The border width. So okay, here I'm just looking at example: border dash style, border dash width. So this border property looks to be a shorthand of that can accept multiple values. So the first value is the width of the border, the second value is the style, and the third value is the color. So if I did border 4 pixels, what was another value? We have this ridge. I don't know what ridge looks like. Ridge, and we can do blue. Okay, but there's a ridge or ridged? Ridge, okay, ridge doesn't, I can't see anything different. Let's do onset. Outset. Not seeing any difference. Do dashed. There we go. So some browsers aren't compatible with certain styles. So it looks like when I did onset, didn't really do anything. Ridge didn't do anything on this Chrome. but there's dash. I don't know what this line height does. I'm going to comment that out and refresh it. So the line height essentially centers the word in the middle of the box. What if I just changed it to 50 pixels? So, okay, it looks like it's a quarter down. 100 pixels. And instead of center, what if I did right? Left. Center, was it? What's going on? So I've got this box that has a dashed border. It's blue. I changed it, the value to blue. Line height, 100 pixels. That centers it in the box. Text align, makes it center. If I just decided to comment that out, okay, so it automatically defaults to left align if I don't specify how I want it centered. If I can open up the Chrome DevTools, Command Option I can see all the styling, pretty much everything I wrote in here. So with HTML, we have our tags, and then we also have like this class, and there's also an ID. What's the difference between a class and an ID?
You want to use a class when you want to scale or apply the styling to several items, whereas an ID would be more exclusive, like for one.
Okay. So Justin's saying like class is when you'd want to scale or use this box, the box styling across your website or across your application that has these stylings applied to many different attributes or many different elements, many different tags in your HTML, where ID is only used once. It's very unique. So I think of class, just like a classroom, a class has a bunch of elements, a bunch of students, and in this class, there's a bunch of students that are going through this specific class. They're all the same. So there's multiple elements within this class that have these attributes, where an ID is unique to an individual. So like a social security number is unique. So an ID is very specific to this specific element. And how do you, so we have class, and we can associate box to this class because it's this little period before it. That's how we know this is a class. If it's an ID, how do we target an ID of circle in CSS? So IDs are targeted using the hash, so circle. And so I can do circle, do this, color height. And there's my circle. So I don't really have a border yet or anything like that. And within the color attribute, they've got these built-in colors that you can use, like chartreuse is blue. But if you hover over it, you can go ahead and change whatever color you want. And it changes to an RGB value. I'm going to cover that. What else can we do? What if when I hover over this, so I'm refreshing it, circle, I'm going to comment that out right now. So what other, when I hover over this, I want it to do something. So like when I hover over it, I want the border to change to a solid border, and I want it to have a background color. So I can do .box. So change HTML when hover over value. So CSS has this hover selector. So an example, select style, a link when you mouse over it. So it's the attribute or the selector, colon, hover, and then whatever we want to change it to. So that hover, background color. Let's do, what was it before? Do red. Ooh, cool.
That's intense.
Let's go a little more. Let's change border radius. I think that's something that's in our, so this border radius property. Let's check it out. Border radius. Let's do, I don't know, let's check out the property border radius. Border radius CSS. W3 schools. So example 1, 25 pixels. All right, there's two board. It looks like it can accept 2 properties. So 4 values. Let's try this out. Looks like it can accept the 4 values, and each value represents a quarter or a corner of the HTML tag. Let's just do 50% or 25 pixels. Come back here. So it's changing it to 20. What if I did, I want to do 50%. So it's actually turning into a circle now. So the 50% means it goes literally like from this corner, 50%. So if I did want to do 75% from every corner, can't really do that because it's still 75%. The max you can go is essentially 50%. So if I did 50%, 25%, 10%, 5%. See what this looks like. So it goes around 50% is the upper right hand or upper left hand corner, 25% upper right hand corner, and then it just goes around that one, and that's 5% in the lower left. What if I only did 3 of them? So 50% is the upper left hand, 5% is the lower right hand, and then the 20% is the upper right, lower left. If I just did 5 or just 2 values, we have 50% upper right or upper left, lower right, and then 20% upper right, lower left. So it kind of just goes around clockwise, starting with the upper left-hand corner. But let's just create a circle, 50%. Great, there's our circle now. But instead of it rapidly changing like that, on a Aqua, I was looking at apartments to rent, Aqua building. This website really annoys me because of the HTML is just awful. Kind of really bugs me. Like this button, like these buttons right here. We have they're like, okay, I understand like this is probably a button. And see how fast it snaps and changes color. And now watch. No, I'm not ready. I can see how that kind of transitions. Like it's just whoever this company, whatever Aqua is paying is, yeah, get a new. Yeah, it probably is. So instead of it just snapping and changing colors, I want it to transition kind of nice like that. So in the circle, how to ease or transition CSS. W3 transitions. So there's these other types, properties called transition. So in the main parent, transition, target, so let's see. So in here, it looks like transition, we need a transition property. And it looks like it targets what CSS property we want to add the effect to. So this one looks like it wants to target the width and then the duration of the effect. I'm going to do transition. But this one, I want to do both of them at the same time. So how do I do? I can do transition followed by the two things I'm changing, followed by comma. So I want to width and height, or I can do all. I can target all of these attributes. I want to do a 3 second. So you can do 3. S stands for 3. It's like 3 seconds, 3,000 milliseconds, or I can do like 3,000 ms, which stands for like milliseconds, or I can just do 3s. And then this is like how it kind of moves. So let's do ease in out CSS. Transitions, ease. So specify the speed curve of the transition. Interesting. I'm going to try this out. So this first div is linear. If I hover over, it's like consistently changing. The ease, like fast and then slow. Slow. Then it like slowly gets faster. Ease. Yeah, ease in, ease out. All right, cool. So I'm gonna do 3 seconds ease. Let's see let's look what this looks like. Ooh. Fancy dancy. But now I also don't want, I want the border to change. I want the border to be 2 pixels solid and green. So I see an error. Always need colons, and then not commas, need semicolons. That's what this looks like. Oh God, that looks hideous. What just happened? I like the 4 pixels. Oh, that's weird. Let's just do border style because we don't want to change everything. I don't want to change the style. So it looks like border style can't change. Like,
Can you give the style names?
No, because this I don't know if the border style can transition like the other ones. Do solid. Fun. Styling is a black hole. You'll find yourself spending so much time. Like, we always try to avoid falling into the CSS black hole because you can spend hours upon hours just styling. Like, yep, go ahead.
Is this HTML4 or HTML5? Is there a big difference and does it matter much?
It's HTML5. I don't know what HTML4.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how they differ. I've never done HTML4. I think HTML5 has been around for long, years upon years. So we have, all right, we have our circle. Oh, it says box. Let's do a circle. I want to target the ID. Circle. Circle. Right. I'm going to copy some stuff from my notes. Not that. So here I got color, height, width, border, line height, text align, border radius. Border color, that's weird. Margin. So in our notes from the curriculum, everything is a box. So in here we have a margin. Font family determines the type of font that you want the text of your element to be. And if the browser doesn't support Verdana, then it defaults to Geneva, then it goes down to Tahoma, and then sans serif is the basic if these fonts don't exist in your web browser. We have a transition, so we're probably going to have comment that out for right now. We're going to have some kind of transition. So I'm in Chrome DevTools. I'm looking at my circle. And here's the actual, so this down here in your styles, you can actually see the styling right here. So that's everything. And what's cool about Chrome is you can add styles in here. Like I can change this to red, and it's going to change it on the screen in real time. So that's how you can make edits instead of like doing everything in here and then refreshing. You can make edits in here and then apply them to your actual CSS file or your HTML style tag. And when I say everything's a box, here's like the box model of this element. So 100 by 100, that's the 100 height by 100 width. Then there's no padding, so nothing shows up. We have a border, how it like highlights the border, where the border would be if it didn't have a radius. Then it shows, so the border is 2. So the border is 2 pixels right here. And then we also have a margin of 10. And a margin is everything around the border. It's like the spacing between like the edge of the element and the actual ID circle div. So when I hover, the cursor, in the circle, when I hover over it, I also want it to change the type of cursor. I don't want it to be like an arrow anymore. So I've got the circle on hover. It's an ID, it's not a class name. Background, blue, violet, and the cursor, I'm going to change to grab. Let's look at all the different cursors. Cursor, property, CSS. So these are all, where are they? Here are all the different cursor properties. Copy, crosshair, default, grab, grabbing, help. Let's do grab. So on the hover, really don't need the width. The width is already 100 pixels. On the hover, let's see what happens. See how the cursor also changed? But now also when I click on it, like when I actually literally click the button, I want the cursor to change. So there's this other circle, target. So let's look at what target stands. Target, some URIs refer to location with a source. Oh, number sign, okay, it really doesn't do anything. Target, CSS. Target selector, highlight active HTML anchor. Anchor, name, link, element being linked to. Don't know what any of that really means. Is it target? Maybe I'm using the wrong attribute. So target. Let's do, I don't know if target's the right one. target, I think it's active. Active CSS. There's different selectors. Select and style the active link. Active is used to select and style the active page. So a link becomes active when you click on it. If I do, instead of target, I do active. I want to change the cursor to grabbing. Indicates that something is being grabbed. Ooh, really. So when I come on here, but I actually click the button, oh, it's not working. Why didn't it work? Oh, thank you. Hover over it. No, it's actually grabbing. So now let's see. But now I want to make a bunch of these circles. Is that part of the make a circle? Mold the circle. Can you make an oval? Inspect your circle. Look at the box model. Kind of inspected the box model in the Chrome Dev Tools right here. Let's refresh. 1, 2, 3. It says I'm not using, so ID are unique. So we should change these to class. And instead of this hash, change it to that. Cool. Is there anything else we need to do? It says make an oval, change. Want to challenge, make a few more boxes and play with the display. So instead of having them vertically, I want them horizontal. So what I'm going to do, there's this thing called Flexbox. That changes the display. So display property, CSS. I don't know what it does. It's telling me what to mess with it. So we have display none. I don't know. Let's look at try it yourself. So none inline. So inline, I see we have a paragraph, and if I use display inline, it displays this hello world in line with the paragraph or the text. The block turns it into a block element, so it's on its own, totally separate block element. Inline block. It looks like it's inline, but it also has the attributes like margin, adding around it as well. You can always inspect. So click on this little arrow inside the. So if you activate that, you can actually display or highlight stuff on the screen. So right here, it's inline. If I click that, default is block. If I go down here, inline block, and then inline block. See what that looks like. Inline block. Interesting. So mess with that. Let's look at Flexbox. CSS tricks, Flexbox. The CSS tricks is a good website. It's pretty, it explains things really well. So in here, I've got a div, and the children is a circle class. These circle elements. So in here, I'm going to say ID, like this would be like a nav header. So with this flex, so the nav header is the container, and these are like the children. So display, I can do display flex. Then it says flex direction. It looks like it's another property. And then flex direction also goes into the container, and depending on the value, row, row reverse, column, reversed. So I'm going to do circle 1, circle 2, circle 3, circle 4, circle 5. Let's just delete those. I'm going to look at circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if I do inside my style tag, do hashtag nav header, display flex. I'm just reading here. So display flex or inline flex. I want to do row, column. I just want it to be a row. Flex direction. See, it's already kind of specifies how flex items are placed in the flex container by setting the direction of the flex. Then it gives you the syntax, row, row, reversed. Flex direction, let's do row. Come back here, refresh it. There. Now if I do row reversed, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's like switched. It's mirrored almost. Does anybody have any questions about like CSS, how to write it, how to access a specific HTML attribute to the CSS property? Now, we didn't talk about, we can also, I'm going to do, there's many different tags. There's an H1 tag that stands for header 1. Header 1. If I refresh it, it's a lot bigger. Header 2, 3, 4. H2. H3. H4 you rarely ever use. Fairly different. They're just kind of more, they've got like more bold. You have paragraph. Paragraph's a big one. This is a paragraph. If I just wanted to target the H1, I can actually just type in the H1 tag. I don't need to put a parenthesis, or I don't need to put a period or a hash. If you just want to target all H1 tags in the entire like application, I can do like color chartreuse. There we go. What questions about HTML, CSS?
Like you said, it's a very, like it's a deep rabbit hole, right?
Yep.
So how much do we need to know in order to be, let's say, ready? How deep do we dive?
You should, as you get more, like as you do the challenges. So if you did, curriculum. So making a circle is pretty straightforward. Recreating Hacker News is pretty interesting. It's pretty fun. So like manipulating your nav bar to like make it look like this. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of trial and error. So as we did with Circle, all your divs were vertical, and then like making them horizontal will be like a styling challenge if you don't know how to make something horizontal. So like how to make nav links horizontal. Nav bars. So it looks like unordered list. And then it's like, okay, margin 0, vertical nav bar, so display block. There's plenty of resources out there. And if you don't know, you can literally just visit a website that has a vertical or a horizontal nav bar and inspect it by like doing that. So in Hacker News, I don't know how Hacker News,
What did you press to do that?
Command Option I, or you can go up to here and go to More Tools and go into Developer Tools. And it's under Elements. So I can literally highlight the nav bar. Okay, it looks like it's a table. That makes a table body. I can go. So there's the first link, or I guess that's the, well, that's the image URL. And then here, page top, here are all the links for that. Looks like they hard coded that, all those spaces. And then you got a login. So if I wanted to just look at, so I'm going to click this, select an element on the page to inspect it. Click that. Now I can see all the actual CSS properties. You can like manipulate it. That's all the links. Now we'll get into CSS libraries like Bootstrap and Material UI, but you should have a good foundation of how to manipulate elements on the screen, how to target specific elements, when to use an ID class, like that. So like doing Hacker News is good, making it top 10. Explore HTML, like choose a top 10. We have these, there's like a million different HTML tags. We don't expect you to memorize them all because you just won't. Where is it? There's also in today's curriculum, like W3, these are a lot of very most commonly used tags, formatting. If you want to use forms, there's this input, text area, buttons, audio, video, links. And then here's a bunch of CSS stuff. Is this the CSS? Oh, that's the HTML reference.
Will there be an assessment?
No. It's really just trial and error. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. If you really like front-end design, you might want to go into like become a front-end engineer or front-end engineer. Let's look at, let's see, did I do one? Do that, kilo, make a circle. Let's look at another one. I'm trying to copy. So I like to do this challenge every time. You can also like, this is kind of what we did before. We can actually do like transform, which is go back, ease out. What that looks like. We have transition, all ease, and we have this transform. Scale 3D, translate X, 700 pixels, rotate 720 degrees. You do all kinds of stuff. Now when I move it, it goes back. And there's all kinds, like CSS is rapidly becoming, there's a lot of things you can do with it. I'll stop the recording right there.